What's up? What's up? What's up? Just thought I'd go live as promised. I advertised that I'd be live on Instagram, so I advertised that. So just wanted to hop on here because we're in official countdown. Let's see, I always make sure my volume's up. Yep. So we're on official countdown. We don't have long to go now for number 47. But, you know, I still think it's imperative that we take an appreciation moment on what led us here. For me, that's an emotional ride too, because God used me in a way that I didn't see it coming whatsoever. It's been such a great ride. I was talking to my family today about how much of a blessing all of you have been to me, and maybe I don't express that enough to all of you. But I do want you to know that you've been a blessing to me in my life and my family's life in ways that you would never dream. Only those who are close to me know me anyway, and that ain't many people. I'm on a little lonely island, but you kind of have to be that way when you're dealing with any kind of publicity, because if you value your name, if you value your character, if you value who you are, then you'll try to stay away from negative publicity. I hate negative publicity. Hate it. I can't stand it. I know people who are music or, artists, they'll make stuff happen just to get publicity. I don't work like that. I was telling my mother today how appreciative I am of her, of how much she raised me and my dad, the values they instilled in me. My dad always said, and my grandfathers, they all said it. I really can't single out any one parent, but they all used to say, if you're doing what's right all the time, if you do what's right when people aren't looking, just as much as you are when they're looking, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you tell the truth always, you ain't ever got to remember anything. And that's why when you go against me, for future reference out there, and for all of you who are thinking about starting a podcast, this is for you to take notes on as well. There are people going to come out of the woodshed that you ain't never heard of in your life. And they going to talk about you. They going to make up stuff. They going to lie about you. They going to say everything under the sun. But the problem they have is if you are in it for the right reasons and your heart's where you're supposed to be and your passion, then you ain't got to remember anything. All you got to do is show the evidence and just stay on the course, because God, you'll know if God put you there. So a lot of people don't realize what put me here, and a lot of people are new followers, which is great, because you don't need to be anywhere else. There's a lot of other people out there that are in it for the money, face. They have no passion, no heart. And while I'm pointing to the shirt really quick, go ahead and give a shout out to Mr. Jerry and Miss Audrey out there. You have an awesome name. Thank you for the shirt for my Christmas gift. This is awesome. If you can't see, ladies and gentlemen, right up close, there's the boss man's name on there. Perfect. I need more shirts just like this. And this was a perfect gift. So thank you out there, finally getting to wear your shirt on air. Thank you for that. Also, that's their card right here that they sent to me. And then a lady from New England, from up near Boston, I can't say it like that, but this little plate right here is a vintage plate that was given to me as a gift. This is my mantle of gifts. Of course, that's me and my mother right here in the photo there, but this is my mantle of gifts. And of course, I have to swap things out because it can't all fit there. And then I have another little table over here full of gifts. So I like to display that for all you great patriots out there. Thank you for that. But especially, I was not expecting this. This is awesome. So, if you got the heart and you're passionate, that's when you know. Like, it's not rhetorical. Now, I have studied laws and orders for years. I've studied them. I've read for years, national emergencies, executive orders, proclamations, yada, yada, yada. And things change sometimes because, customs can change. They don't always change, but things can change. And you're not always going to be 100% accurate and correct. But it's like a buddy of mine says all the time. He says, man, we're either 99% correct and 100% crazy, or we're 100% wrong and we're fighting for the right reasons. And I love that, because it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. If you're fighting for the right reasons, then, you know, you have to look at it that way. Like, if your First Amendment backs the Constitution, but someone else's First Amendment goes against it, that's what it was established for. It's like Marbury versus Madison, 1803. It was a landslide Supreme Court case for a reason. It specifically says, and this is in modern day, you can go read what it originally says. It's a shorter sentence, but I'm paraphrasing. But this is what it means. It says, let's say it this way. If a statute looks like a law, but doesn't support the Constitution, it's null and void. So that applies the same thing with your First Amendment, because the First Amendment came after the Revolutionary War, it came after the Declaration of Independence, and it came after the Constitution. So these Bill of Rights were rights established outside of that. And all these people out there yelling about their First Amendment, my First Amendment, my First Amendment. If your First Amendment does not support the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, can't separate them. If it don't support those two together and the foundation that my forefathers fought for, I can trace back. I trace back, and I also have Native American in me. I don't look like it because I've got a lot more Irish, but I do have on my DNA. Now, I don't want to get a bad nickname from President Trump. I don't want to get no name like Sitting Bull or something like that. I don't have a lot in me, but I have enough. And I do know my history. I do know our heritage. I do know my lineage. And we trace all the way back. All the way back. So I can say that my founders, my family, my lineage fought for this nation. And that's how that, you know what, works. If your First Amendment does not support that foundation of which established the very reason and premise you're here, it's null and void. That's how that shit works. Excuse my French, but I'm just going to say it like that, because that's what slang, and that's just how it works. And that's what's going on right now, is the generations like President Trump, who is younger than my dad. My dad's 4 years older than President Trump. That generation is what built this nation. That mindset. They're of that same mindset. My dad, when I was young, made me go out in a cornfield and pull corn like he had to do when he was a kid. I had to do everything that he did and appreciate it before he would let me do it, like sit on the tractor and drive the tractor. I had to get down there and pull the barbed wire and run barbed wire and run fence lines before he'd let me drive a tractor. You had to work your way up. You had to pay your dues. It's the saying is. That's the generation of men and women. And I hate to say this, because there's a lot of you patriot women who have been pulling the weight on the levels where it matters. But it's been mainly men who put this together on the higher level. So ladies, we need more of you in those higher echelons. We need you there, because you can multitask like nobody's business. Your intuitions, your intellect, all that is there. No doubt about it. So that's why we're raising people up. But see, the way I was raised is what's got to happen with these new generations of parents out there. You got to instill this, like the Bible says, train up a child in the way that he should go and he won't depart. All right. Now, there are a few bad apples that don't come back to the apple tree, as the saying is. It's life. It happens. You can't eradicate evil. However, you can try to instill it from an early on, and you can give your child a chance to learn it and to do unto others and to do what's right, even when people aren't looking. And we got away from that. Somehow there was a massive generation somewhere between the 70s and the 80s who just went awry, quit disciplining their children. My dad never once hit me. He never hit me, but he disciplined me. He never abused me. He never belittled me. He never talked down, which is belittling. But he never did any of that. but he still disciplined me. That's what we got to get back to in this nation to sustain this and maintain what we just went through. So I'm just going to talk a little bit today about appreciation and what you just went through. You're still in the dash. You're almost done with the dash. We're right there. But that dash matters. President Trump ain't no dummy. No matter what the liberals are still saying out there, they're going to catch on because they're losing all their heroes. Bezos, Zuckerberg, Tim Cook, Apple, they all turned. Now, we've been telling you, guys like me have told you they're going to turn because this is an operation. And special operations gives you a chance. So we're going to talk chess today. I'm going to show you something that President Trump has told you that's a chess turn. And I'm not going to give too much away, per se, even though it doesn't matter. But part 2 of my book is out. All right, we got part 2 for pre-sale, pre-order. All right. Part 2 goes a deeper dive into special operations. It goes into a deeper setup of how they would have pulled this off. What would that look like? What would that entail? Why would it look that way? Because a lot of people, well, if President Trump was still in charge, why would it look this way? Look. You already gone through that 4 years quicker than a cat can lick its rear end. You're already through it, and a lot of you are already celebrating. Oh, no. I told y'all from the get-go, when I first flew onto the scene, when God put me in this position, I said, no. You can go listen to people over there that's going to pat you on the back and rub your little head and say, it's okay. No, I'm not going to do that. Now, I'm not going to say it in another condescending way. No. You're not going to forget what we just went through. You're going to learn to appreciate what this man sacrificed in his 70s for you to have what you're about to have. Oh no, you're going to appreciate this right here. That's the problem we have is everybody wants a 5-star filet mignon in a damn 1990s microwave. All right? And you got to appreciate what you went through. You want to love this man? You want to appreciate this man? Understand what he set up and what he sacrificed for you to have what you're having. Because you didn't have to fight for it. You ain't had to fight nowhere near. This nation ain't nowhere near poor or anything else like some people make you think it is. And you ain't been in that position. I know people who whine, complain, gripe, moan, fuss, bitch, you name it, this whole 4 years. But they had time for alcohol. They had time for the honky-tonk on Friday and Saturday night. They had time to go and get on their boat on the weekend. Oh, no, they have time. And they got money. They sacrificed other things, but they still got to do all their hobbies. Played golf, went hiking, went skydiving, you name it. Got more tattoos. Oh, we had money for stuff that you wanted to do. Yeah, you had money for that. But you whine and complain about gas and food and you name it. But you had time for all your other stuff. No, you ain't been struggling like you think you struggled. So if you were in that boat, you're doing injustice for all the real people who actually did struggle. There are people who struggled, ain't no doubt. But you're doing injustice to them if you think like that. And now you're going to get the benefit from it. Everybody's going to benefit from this. Liberals, crazy purple-haired, hippies, they're going to benefit from all of this. They're in a capitalist market. They go to Starbucks and buy Starbucks. Capitalism. You're in a capitalist society. It's not the corporation that you got to worry about. A lot of the patriots are focusing on the wrong terms now. You're focusing on, you're going too deep now. You got to stay in the middle of the road. You got to give some and take some. President Trump, they had to do this a certain way. But let me show you a little something. Let me show you a little something cool that President Trump said that a lot of you have forgotten about. He said the best is yet to come. I've seen a lot of you quote it. Oh, the best is yet to come. That you don't. Some of you don't even realize what you were saying. And that's okay because I'm about to show you. The best is yet to come. This is a chess game. It's special operations. Laws and orders outline that. No matter what negative people say that to you. I had a text message right before I went live from someone saying that people were giving them grief again. Look, we have some incompetent people in this nation. We have some lazy people, complacent people. We have people who are still stuck, conditioned, and brainwashed to the system, the matrix. They're still watching Fox News as news source. All right? It ain't news. It ain't news. They ain't Fox News, none of them. Newsmax even, Fox News, Newsmax, OAN, none of them. None of them are showing you what matters. The laws and the orders that are currently invoked right now. Those are the only things that matter. OAN don't tell President Trump what to do. Newsmax don't tell President Trump what to do. Fox News don't tell him what to do. Laws and orders, Chief Executive Officer of the Executive Branch. He's going by laws and orders. All right? And what baffled me starting out was when the negative started coming is I'm not some dude sitting here talking about, oh, gay rights and this right and that right and this right and this, that. I'm not a talk show. I'm showing you military laws. I'm more military based on the military laws and orders that are currently invoked right now. And then showing you the discrepancies that, okay, I can play devil's advocate. I can sit in a neutral seat. Let's talk Joe Biden. If Joe's president and you love Joe Biden, if you're one of those out there taking up for him, okay, let's talk things presidential. And why doesn't Joe, first time in U.S. history, why doesn't Joe Biden have certain things in a certain column over here that makes him a president? And when you can't answer that, and then you revert to, oh, that sounds like a conspiracy theory, or you're a liar, you're a grifter, and all those terms, when you turn, and when someone goes that way, if they're doing that to you, if they turn and go that way, just stop. They ain't got no IQ. They can't comprehend because they're not reading what you're feeding yourself. You're the one empowering yourself. If they don't want to empower themselves, let them go. You ever seen water hit a duck? You know what God designed a duck for? Watch water hit a duck. It rolls right off their back. You got to let it roll right on off. All right? Now, because God gave me a platform, I will, in my podcast, I will get down on it sometimes because one of them might just hear it the right way and go, you know what? Like I told someone one time, I said, hey, all right, if I'm wrong, okay, if I'm wrong, or you think I'm wrong, then go read everything that I talk about, everything, not one little thing, read all of it, and then debunk it. But see, laws and orders aren't written that way. Laws and orders are written as neutral as possible. That way you, if you're on the polar opposite side of me, it's like a water trough. Horses may not like each other. All right, but if there's only one water trough and there's no other water source, then that water trough is a neutrality. Law works the same way. There are different opinions on laws, sure, but it depends on who's enforcing them laws. That's why it matters. It depends on who's enforcing and who's interpreting the law. That's what matters. And see, right now, everything that I outline and show, everything shows who's in charge and who's enforcing, who's in charge, and then also who's interpreting. But then your courts are under a continuity of operations. So there's certain things the Supreme Court are doing, there's certain things they're not. There's a certain case out there that a lot of patriots keep hanging on to, and I keep showing them, denied for this reason. There's an actual code. They state a code why they're not taking it. And that code says it's a conflict of interest. All right? And because it's a conflict of interest, you got to know what the topic is or what the courts are under, and then you got to know what that court case is about. And then when you pair those two and it says it's a conflict of interest, then it's telling you we're in a continuity of operations. You don't need this. This doesn't matter. There's something else bigger taking place. All right? So everything I talk about is a niche. It's a niche market. If we're going to talk business, a lot of you are in business. It's a niche market. You got to know what an executive order is. You got to know what a national emergency is. You got to know what an executive order with a national emergency is. You got to know a proclamation. You got to know a treaty. You got to know the 4 ways, and I just named them, 4 ways that a president has influence with the military and the federal. That's the only 4 ways that military and federal connect. Executive orders, national emergencies, proclamations, and treaties. Real simple. And people complicate it. So if you know people who are complicating it, then it depends on how complicated they are personally to you, whether you want to have that conversation or not. It's not worth it, because if they don't study every single entity of which I talk about, they're going to be lost. And you're going to waste your time, you're going to waste your energy, and you're going to waste your IQ on someone who's not seeking the same thing you are. And so that's why you got to let them roll. That's why even in the comment boxes, there are certain things we don't reply to in the comment box, because some people are just looking for that. They just want, they feed off of negativity. They feed off of drama. They feed off of corruption. And you just got to know when to, you got to know when to hold them. Know when to fold them. Know when to walk away. Know when to run. Right? Of course, cowboys don't run, so there's that. So, but President Trump is the face of this operation. There's no other way that this could have been pulled off the way it was pulled off without the military. There's no way. Because why wouldn't Ronald Reagan have done it? Why couldn't some other president in history? Why did we wait so long? If this could have been done anywhere else, why did it take so long? I always give this example really fast, and I'm going to get back to the chess game. My dad, when he was in the Air Force in the early 60s, he got to pick up James Stewart, known as Jimmy Stewart, the actor. Very famous actor. All right. Mr. Stewart finished his career as a brigadier general. And Mr. Stewart told Hollywood that acting comes first. Excuse me, acting comes second, military comes first. And so, if you go back to 1938, how many of you were alive in 1938? If you were alive in 1938 and you're sitting here on this podcast, hats off to you. Because that means you are good at technology at your age. And it means you're pretty hip, especially if you're on Instagram up here. If you were born in 1938 and you're right here today, kudos to you. In 1938, James Stewart, sir, he deserves all the respect in the world for what he did and contributed to the military in this nation. But James Stewart played in a movie called Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. I highly recommend everybody watch that movie if you haven't. In the movie, and I'm paraphrasing, but he takes like a bill and he wants to break it down like I've done. He'll read the whole bill and he starts to read it, and them old congressmen walks up to him. Hey, sonny boy, this ain't how we do it around here. See, you might get 2 bills and we get 3 this time around, and you might get 3 the next time and we get 2, but we put them together in a package and we just pass them like that. That's why this nation looks the way it does. Because people, we the people, not me, and not some of my family members, I can honestly say not me, and you probably can too, a lot of you, but a lot of people forgot that we're the government. Congress is a representative of us. They're a reflection of what we want in our states on a federal. Really that simple. 535 members of Congress work for us. Guess what it's been for at least 150 years? Polar opposite. 535 members of Congress have controlled all of the population. And there was James Stewart playing in a movie in 1938 trying to show people then in a movie what Congress looks like. Now picture from 1938 to present day. Well, not present day. Back it up. November the 8th, 2016, when the line was drawn in the sand. The only way they could have pulled this off was special operations, lawful, military where they could use it, subterranean warfare, cleaning out the drug trafficking, sex trafficking, human trafficking, child trafficking, which I think we all will say that's the most important one. They're all important, but especially children. Cleaning out that, cleaning out all the pipelines of all these terrorists, North Korea, Iran, Iraq, Syria, all these places, Pakistan. I mean, all these, these tunnels run everywhere. All right, so there's that. They had to do everything lawfully. President Trump, it's this clear if you'll just think a little bit. All he had to do was enforce the laws. Enforcing the laws on paper would expose 95% of the swamp out the gate because they haven't been enforcing the laws like they should have. The other 5% are finding all the ones who blend in. The old saying, keep your enemies close. I mean, your friends close, your enemies closer. That saying, that's the other 5%. It's finding out all the other low-level rings and where they run and who's operating with them. That's why jealousy is one hell of an addiction. People who are jealous of people like me are jealous and who try to frame me and all that nonsense. I'm not going to get on that rabbit trail. But when you think about that, though, when you think about people who try to look just like the swamp, if they were doing it dumbly and they got in too deep, that's how you can mess your name up. That's how you can mess yourself up, by jealousy, by replicating what the swamp looks like. So that's how your discernment has to kick in. All of you out there are still struggling with your discernment, who you're listening to. There's a lot of them. I know a lot of them. That's why I stay away from them. They're low level. They would be right in the swamp, just like that. Because they can be bought. They're trying to make this. They're all about money, 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 fame, money, fame. All right. President Trump is not getting the appreciation that he deserves the appropriate way by patriots. And I'm going to show you how, and I've been showing it. Here's a man who was in his early 70s. He was asked to do this. There's no other way they could have pulled this off but military and lawfully. And then invoking the laws and the orders that pair with federal for military. There's no other way they could have pulled this off. No other way. Here's a man who was asked to do this. A billionaire. He could fly anywhere he wanted to, go anywhere he wants to go, eat anything he wants to eat, play golf anywhere he wants to play golf all day, every day if he wanted to. Here's a man who was entering his glory years, entering his 70s. The average lifespan of a male, the last I checked, is still somewhere around 78. The average. Here's a man who was willing to give up all of his glory years. Sure, he probably had a few haters somewhere. Everybody does, especially when you're a high-profile businessman or woman and you've owned companies and you've owned businesses and things. Sure, you had a few. This man came out of that lifestyle to take on all the hatred, bitterness, mockery. But then remember Kathy Griffin and the severed head? Remember all that? Remember that showing? This man took on all of that hatred, bitterness, and a lot of the bitterness, they don't even know why they're bitter. They don't even know that they've been hoodwinked their whole life. They don't know their condition and brainwashed. The very people that they support are the very ones who would take them right to the guillotine like that. And it takes people like President Trump, people like me, and I can sit here and name other people. It takes a strong person to be able to take the hatred, the ridicule, the mockery, the cussing, the lying, the fraud, the deceit, frame up, it takes a strong person to take all of that and still know that you don't know any better. So when people say, oh, you raise your voice too much and your delivery and you're this, No, my delivery is perfect. I'm right where I'm supposed to be because I answered a call. I don't talk about God and Christ a whole lot because there's people out there who are nothing but this. They flap them gums about God all the time. They flap their gums about Christ all the time. They flap their gums about Bible verses all the time. But they don't do this right here. They don't walk the walk. They talk it, but they don't walk it. And this man, liberals will say, oh, he's done this and he's done that. You weren't there. You weren't there. You just go by hearsay. That's what's wrong with this whole damn world, is you go by hearsay. You don't know me. You don't know him. You don't know these people of which you get in drama and propaganda and you're running around talking about people you don't know. It don't matter if you're Elvis Presley. It don't matter if you're Michael Jackson. It don't matter who you are. It don't matter how big world known you are. You still have a beating heart, lungs, mouth, brain. If you don't know that heart and you don't know that person, you don't know a thing. And the stuff that they've allowed to get into politics and all this stuff out there, they try to frame. The easiest thing to do with a male is to say, oh, he was with this female, blah, blah, blah. But if you were never with a female, then you're gay. I mean, it's the dumbest thing we got to in society, where we bring in stuff that's human nature, right? And liberals are the ones who are the ones that are swinging and they got all kinds of relationships and you name it. They're the ones that are eclectic and all over the place with their sexual being. But oh, heaven forbid, they caught, when Hugh Hefner died, he was a hero. This man created an empire and a business of whores. And you call President Trump one? But, Hugh Hefner, because he established a business and he went down to the courthouse and or the Department of Revenue or wherever, and he established an LLC. He's a businessman. Boy, I'm telling you, man, I'm telling you what. I could be a talk show, but it don't get you nowhere. We don't educate people by talk shows. But then again, we gotta get in some brains out there and go, what in the hell do you believe? You have no foundation. This man sacrificed everything. The man sacrificed everything. And everything that this man has done, when you know the foundation, when you know our history, when you know the founders' hearts, when you know the war came before the Declaration of Independence, when you know the military came before the Declaration, when you know the Declaration came before the Constitution, when you know all these things, this man is as close to that foundation. You cannot put hardly a thing of air through how tight my fingers are right now. That's how close he is to the United States Foundation, the United States Military Foundation, the Declaration of Independence, and the Constitution. Anybody who argues that, they need to be deported. I will say it. I don't care if you were born here. I don't care if you have a lineage here. You need to be deported until you have an appreciation for that foundation and for someone who knows how to go into the face of adversity and brainwash, condition society, all for your future and their future. Until you can appreciate that, you need to get the hell on up out of here. As the saying is, get out of here. There are multiple nations you can choose from. Get the hell up out of here and go somewhere else until you can appreciate it. And then, all you got to do, go somewhere where there's actual tyranny or there's actual poverty. Go somewhere else, get you a dose of appreciation, then you can come back. We can have us a little town hall meeting, and then we'll let you speak, and we'll let you tell of your appreciation and your love for this nation, and the love for men and women who know how to sacrifice for you to have your lifestyle. You can be gay, you can be Buddhist, you can be atheist, you can be whatever the hell you want to be. We don't care about that. And if someone is coming against you about that, they also don't know what's going on. If they think this whole operation was to suppress you and oppress you and tie your hands behind your back where you can't be what you want to be, no. We're just saying we're not going to pay for it federally. We're not going to perform your surgeries for you. We're not going to pay for it. All right? But if you can find a liberal-ass doctor out in the middle of Bumtuck, Mississippi or West Virginia or wherever you are, and they'll do something for you, okay, go do it. It's your conscience. It's your life. But we're not paying for it anymore. It's not going through federal anything. It really shouldn't go through state, but it ain't going through federal anymore. And see, that's where people need to understand. When you put something in federal, then it becomes up for interpretation. And when it becomes up for interpretation, then it depends on who's what? Interpreting. Right? Depends on who's enforcing. Depends on who's in charge of them laws. So see, that's why you don't want to pass some laws. That's why you don't want to pass some bills, because it depends on who's interpreting. That's why you don't want it. You should actually want people like me who's saying, look, you want to be gay? You want to be Buddhist? You want to be different? You want to be purple hair? You want to believe that Elton John and a little freaking pet monkey fly to Pluto and back at night when you're smoking your little doobies? That's fine. You can do whatever you want to do. We're not paying for it. It's not going through federal. You can do whatever you want to do. If someone infringes on you, or they say, hey, they come in your house and they try to break your house down, I'll defend you. I'll say, hey, look, I know they're a little weird, they're a little different, but they ain't messing with nobody. They're in their household. They pay their dues. They're paying their flat tax. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. But don't you hurt them. Don't you harm them. See, that's how that works. And you liberals out there, the ones that when you hear this, hopefully your friends will share that. Ain't nobody trying to infringe on your rights. Your rights ain't being taken away. You need people like me to protect you. All right? That's what this is about. All these people who've been blowing smoke up your dress or whatever you're wearing, all you men out there wearing dresses, I guess it applies to you now. Whoever's blowing smoke up your britches and your dress, they've been lying to you for years. These people been telling you for years, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, they ain't done nothing. There's only one person who's done something. And before I get to the chest, Merle Haggard had a song called Rainbow Stew. And it says, if folks would be doing what they ought to be doing, then they wouldn't be booing no more. So think about that. If folks would be doing what they ought to be doing, then they wouldn't be booing no more. Now watch this. Merle Haggard, Merle Haggard had a song, Rainbow Stew. Eating rainbow stew on a silver spoon underneath that sky blue. We'll all be drinking that free bubble up and eating that rainbow stew. That song, it says if folks be doing what they ought to be doing, then they won't be booing no more. When the president goes through the White House door and does what he says he'll do, we'll all be drinking that free bubble up and eating that rainbow stew. When the president goes through the White House door and does what he says we'll do, Rainbow Stew has come true. Merle Haggard. Thank you, Merle. Thank you, Hag. He wrote that song, been singing that song for years. When the president goes through the White House door and does what he says he'll do. Yes, we all need some rainbow stew. President Trump sacrificed everything for you. Everything. Man, I'm going to tell you what. I swell up with tears. I'm not related to him. Nothing like that. I've been around him 14 times, I think it is total, in the last 3 years. I could be around him every day of the year, though, and I'd still have that pride in America that my dad does. When my dad sees a flag flying, tear. When my grandpa saw the flag flying, tear. That's the pride you got to have. And to this day, if you'll flip it over, during the national anthem of NFL, we still have people in the stands without their hands on their hearts. We still have men who don't take their hats off. We still have football players getting paid millions of dollars, no hands on their hearts. Every one of their asses would be off my team if I was a coach. And you people in the stands, you're a disgrace to America too. You're a disgrace to the United States Armed Forces. You're a disgrace. You don't have the pride or you can't put your hand over your heart. You can't put this love and unity and all this other bullshit you spew out there. Oh, you people are love and unity and love can overcome this. So your love can't overcome your little shallow mind that you can't put your hand over your heart and thank the armed forces for giving you your First Amendment. You can't do that. Because that's what you're doing when you don't put your hand on your heart. That's exactly what you're saying. You're showing every service member that you and your little sermon that you walk around talking about, you can't overcome whatever you think that flag. See, you have a problem. You don't understand what the flag represents. That's your problem. You and Colin Kaepernick and all those other twat waffles out there, that's your problem. You don't know where the flag came from. You probably need to know a little history. See, let me do a little history for you, and then we're going to get to chess. So see, the war kicked off April 19th, the Battle of Lexington and Concord. All right, April 19th, 1775. Let's do some hillbilly math here. April, May, June. Oh, that's 2 months before the Army was established. June 14th, 1775. Then June the 30th, the very first military law. Before what? June 30th, 1775 is a year and a month before what? It's not a full month, so it's just a few days. So it's a year and a few days before what? The Declaration of Independence. All right? June 30th, 1775. October the 13th, 1775. The Navy. November the 10th, 1775. The Marine Corps. December the 3rd, 1775. The very first flag. The Union Jack flag. Pretty sure that December 1775 is long before July the 4th, 1776 and September the 17th, 1787. And can you explain to me, Colin Kaepernick? All right, can you explain to me, all of you out there that don't want to put your hand on your heart, can you explain to me why the Betsy Ross flag was sworn into Congress on June 14th, 1777, which was 2 years after the first anniversary, the date, the establishment of the Army? Can you explain why the flag was sworn in on the Army's birthday? June 14th, 1777. And can you also explain to me why the very first flag that flew was at Fort Schuyler in New York? Can you explain to me why the very first flag flew in one of the bloodiest battles of the Revolutionary War? Can you explain why those soldiers were so happy that they had something they were fighting for? Long before this was before, this is right before. It was actually before the first Constitution, the Articles of Confederation. It was well before the Constitution. Can you explain why those soldiers' wives took curtains off a window and tablecloths and cut those up and stitched the flag? Can you tell me that pride that they had in the flag, that they took the uniforms, extra uniforms of the soldiers, cut those up, tablecloths and curtains, and stitched the flag? You're a freaking disgrace if you can't put your hand over your heart at a football game and show the military appreciation. You should also be deported. Get the hell out of here. I'm telling you, boy. Woo, woo. And people say, I don't love our military. I'm a veteran myself. Come on, people. You got a few here. Oh, he's always talking about veterans. I want veterans to do better. I want veterans to study the laws and orders they served under. I want veterans to know when someone's in a conversation somewhere, a veteran can go, yes, Title 10. Yes, Title 50. Yes, my oath. Yes, the Constitution. Yes, the Declaration. Boom, 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 just like I can. That's the love and pride you're supposed to have for your oath and for your nation and your foundation. That's it. It shouldn't be memorized. It should come from the heart. We got to get back to that. I'm telling you, boy. I'm telling you. So President Trump playing chess is beautiful. You enforce the laws. 95% of enforcing the laws takes care of everything else, because then it shows you, the people, what they weren't doing in the swamp. All of them. That's when the mudslinging really started. That's when the lawfare started and all this other stuff, because they had no other options. Now, I know it was still all an operation, but for the people out there that's slowly coming on, I'll play devil's advocate. All right? That's when the lawfare started. That's when they started all these accusations about President Trump, because they had no other options. They couldn't tell him he couldn't do it because it was a law. So all he had to do was say, well, why did all these past Congresses pass this law if it's against the law to use the law? You see how that sounds? This is how easy this stuff is. Right? So you enforce the laws. Then you pull him back. You pull him back lawfully, because there's a tactic for that. It's called a PED, a Presidential Emergency Action Document. All right? There's podcasters out there, they didn't have a clue about the PED until I came along. They didn't even know. There's senators. There's a mainstream article of a senator of 36 years that said they didn't know what a PED is. All right, PED, Presidential Emergency Action Document. It can expand the powers of the president. All right, it's a series of executive orders, proclamations, and national emergencies that are pre-planned by the Department of Justice, presented to the president, and then he presents that in a report to Congress. All right, they were established under the Eisenhower years. You wonder why President Trump mentions Eisenhower all the time? He tells you. He has to tell you. He has to proclamate it to you. It's just not in the language of which you might know. It's in language that's not secretive. You just got to know what he's saying. You got to know the laws. You got to know the orders, and then you got to know which laws, and you got to know which orders. You got to know what's invoked. That's why certain people, they look like they're all over the board out there. So you enforce the laws. They couldn't say you can't do it. It exposed the ones that weren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. The others had to take plea deals, and some of them were playing roles. All right, because you got to smoke out the rats. That's what special operations, you got to blend in. So why did it look like this the last 4 years? Because you got to blend in. All right, and what better way than versus giving 8 straight years out the gate and done? Because unless you amend the Constitution, a president only does get the 2 terms, right? Unless you use a national emergency and a proclamation and the PED to expand your power, but you got to have a reason to do that. You can't abuse your power. So there has to be a reason to have a PED, a Presidential Emergency Action Document. So instead of giving President Trump 8 straight years out the gate, there's a lawful way to pull him back, and then you get 12 years to do what would have taken 8. And it's lawful. It's military law, and it's also federal, and how they pair. And it's brilliant. Brilliant strategy. So President Trump told you the best is yet to come. See, this was never about winning. This is where a lot of patriots are losing focus on what this whole operation was about. This was never about 2020 election. This was never about President Trump being president. This is where liberals are really struggling, because they don't know anything. They have no foundation. They hate just to hate. They're not the party of unity and love. They're not. So the best is yet to come is a chess turn. Best. This was never about beating anybody. This is never about winning. They trapped the swamp. They exposed the swamp. They drained the swamp. But they had to do it lawfully, but they also had to do it to where what? You the people, we the people. I already knew what was going on, but all the ones that don't, they had to get everybody's attention. They had to get people to care, to love, and to respect our foundation, our government, our state powers, and the presidential seat again. The 3 branches of government. So how do you do that without starting a war? It's like my book says. My second book asks this question. How do you effectively and efficiently drain the swamp from top to bottom without creating civil havoc, civil war, civil unrest, but never firing a shot while lawfully letting the swamp self-destruct on their own. That's what you witnessed the last 4 years. That's what you've witnessed. You have witnessed that. Whether you know it yet or not, that is what you've witnessed. And if you love President Trump, then you should want to study that even more, because you'll appreciate him more. And you will have a newfound love for the military that you never thought you knew. Or maybe you thought you knew. So chess. The best is yet to come. You trap your enemy. You create a funnel. You make them give up. You make them wave the white flag of surrender. You know why President Trump uses the term white flag of surrender all the time? Because you're watching a special operation. They trapped the swamp and they funneled them. They're making them give up along the way. If you want to be mad at somebody, you should have been mad at the real characters, the real people, because they were given an ultimatum when they were all captured. They were given an ultimatum. Cross the line right now. Do what's right for humanity. Or you get to call your shots, and then your legacy, what you think of your legacy, is going to be destroyed in front of everybody. That's how that would work on the backside. Now, that's going to be tough for a lot of people to comprehend, but that's what you witness. The best is yet to come means this. If you went to Google and you looked up best in chess, if you looked up the king being stalemate, that's the term for it. The king being stalemate. That means the queen is gone. All right. Didn't the Queen of England die? All right. The monarchy. This is why this is so important. And we're only going to focus on this and then one other thing. This is why this is so important. Why I harp on January the 20th, 2021 all the time. And I said last night I'm going to do another podcast explaining a 21 gun salute. Because so many people are struggling with it. Let's see which one I want to start with first. So on January the 20th, let's start with that one. On January the 20th, 2021. And I love when people are trolls in a good way, because sometimes trolls are good because if they're incompetent, you can take their ignorance and flip it on them. But chances are, if they're incompetent and they're just flagrantly throwing something out there and they don't really know what they're saying, they just want to be right so bad and make someone else wrong, chances are someone else thinks like them too. And then if you take that scenario and then you use it against them in a good way, without using a name, because that's all they want to sometimes. But if you take that and you flip it, then you get the left brain and the right brain, because there's different brains out there, obviously, and the different kind of thinkers. But what I talk about is for everybody. No matter what brain you work with, this is military. It's special operations, but it's all lawful. And you've all witnessed it, whether you knew what you were watching or not. So, example. Last year sometime, there was an Army veteran, all right, 24, 25 something years, right? And see, a lot of people hang up on titles, entitlement, titles, ranks, experience, years of experience, resumes, etc. This is not that operation. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to be a veteran. You don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to be a PhD. Nothing. This is all book smart. All you got to be is book smart to crack this code. Now you need a little common sense for some things, but if you're heavy book smart, all you need to do is read what's in place. So what people will do, though, is they'll gravitate towards someone I was 20-something years in the military. And you think, just because they were 20 years, that they knew the laws and orders. Polar opposite. All right? So what's funny is I didn't serve 20 years. Wanted to, but there's a story behind that, and I'll get to tell that somewhere down the road. It doesn't matter right now because it's not about me. So this person says, I finally caught Derek Jonhson. He's a liar and he's a grifter. I'm like, okay, you can be wrong, but it don't make you a liar. And it don't make you a grifter. All right, that's the dumbest thing. That's when you know they're incompetent or they're deep state or both. But they said this. The three cannons are always at Arlington. The three cannons is a part of the unknown soldier. It's a part of Arlington and the wreath laying ceremony. All right? Which is true, ladies and gentlemen. That's accurate. This person was accurate on that. Bravo! Bravo! Your 20 years did you something. Oh, yeah! You know, I feel like Tucker Carlson. Oh, you know. Oh, bravo! 20 years! Yeah! What do we need to do? Champagne, bobstick. But you want me to be wrong so bad, you actually proved me right. Da, 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 da. Right? Isn't that the Notre Dame fight song? It's in there playing in the national championship. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Well, guess what? I get to run out of the tunnel now and go, thank you, active duty, for wanting me to be wrong so bad. You actually proved me right. And it helps so many people who might have thought like that first. Now I get to prove the point. See, on January the 20th, 2021, everything was wrong that day by customs. There wasn't a commissioned officer from the Army at the cannon salutes. No matter what kind of salute it was, there was no Army officer there, period. So there's a discrepancy right off the gate. That's a violation of Army Regulation 600-25. You should know that, Miss, I was active duty for 20-something years. You probably should have picked up on that, which you didn't do. All right, you didn't explain that to your little group of people you were trying to influence. You were wrong there. You didn't even see that, so you can't be right or wrong. So there's that. Joe Biden raised his right hand at 11:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you go right now to Google, they have an itinerary of what President Trump's going to do on Monday. What's it say? He says he's going to swear in at 12 o'clock noon. Why 12 o'clock noon all of a sudden? If it's okay for the president to swear in before 12 o'clock, then why does President Trump have to wait till 12 o'clock noon? Why did Joe Biden swear in at 11:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time? Why did every other president swear in at 12:01 to 12:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time? Why? If it don't matter, all of the people... So see, 20th Amendment of the Constitution. The president's term shall end at noon. The successor shall then begin. Oh, so it does matter. Shall then begin means you can't start before 12. So Joe violated the 20th Amendment. All right, so there's that. Then all of the National Guard, all of the soldiers didn't salute him one time. Going by in the motorcade. No salutes to the Commander-in-Chief. The president who sat in his basement in his whitey-tighties and got 81 million votes, the most votes in United States history. And there were more registered voters in 2024 than there were in 2020. And President Trump only has about 79 million popular votes. But Joe got 81 million? The most votes in United States history. And there are more voters in 2024 than there were in 2020. And President Trump only has 79 million. Amazing Grace was performed, full song by Garth Brooks. Army Memorial Song for funerals. Then the only cannon shown all day long. This is where people struggle. Sure, YouTube says it's a 21-gun salute. It is not a 21-gun salute. And that still shows people are failing every day because you want to believe what the mainstream media tells you and not military customs. Arlington National Cemetery.mil. The 3-volley salute seen or heard at Arlington is not to be confused with a 21-gun salute. The 3-volley salute seen or heard at Arlington is a military funeral service. That is a military custom. It can't be debated. Now, since we have a president who died, quote unquote, those of you who know what I'm talking about with the quote unquote, we'll let that stay with us, because some people who see this video will call you a conspiracy theorist and all this other stuff because they can't read laws and orders and don't want to. All right, but you'll know what I'm talking about when I say quote unquote around old JC dying. All right, when he died. But outside of that, since people think they witnessed a funeral, when a president dies, the day that he dies, there is a cannon salute on installation basis. All right. When he dies, he also receives a 21-gun salute. Okay. People are confusing a 21-gun salute, the term, because you hear guns. A 21-gun salute is 4 cannons, no matter where it is. It's 4 cannons. A 21-gun salute is 4 cannons. 3 for fire and 1 for misfire. So there's that. People are struggling with a president actually dying and the cannons you see at it, and then what you witness on January the 20th, 2021. Separate them. What you got to also do is listen. When I first went viral, that was one of the key things that I went viral for, because no one saw that. That was one of the things that put me on the map, was the funeral. And people went back and looked at it and saw the 3 cannons. Well, what other people did, though, is said that I said Joe Biden is dead. I've never said Joe Biden's dead. I said that by visuals, what we call optics. By optics, it was a funeral service for Joe Biden and the monarchy. That's where this is key with the chess game. Keep in mind the Queen of England. All right, so you have London, the Vatican, and Washington, D.C. So you saw the Queen of England die. All right. You've heard a lot of chatter around the Vatican and the Pope, right? They're bringing attention to all that. Now go to D.C. The only cannon shown all day long for Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. were the 3 cannons at Arlington. Every other president that you can go back to YouTube on, Nixon is the last one you can go to see it visually on the old files. All right. From Nixon all the way to President Trump, you have seen a president receive 4 cannons in the National Capital Region. Not at Arlington. It's in the National Capital Region. 4 cannons, 21 rounds fired. That's what a 21-gun salute is. There's a 21-gun salute, a 19-gun salute, 17, 15, 13, 11, 9, 7, and 5, it seems like. May not be a 7. But they're all odd numbers. Then there's a chart for that in Army Memorial. You can go read this on a .mil site. You can go read who the cannons are for. All right, 21-gun salute for the president. But the only cannons shown all day long for Joe Biden on January the 20th were the 3 cannons at Arlington. No other time in history have they even shown the cannons at Arlington. When a president leaves from being sworn in, you see the 4 cannons, the salute, the 21-gun salute. Then he goes over and you see him push the wreath back, but they've never shown those cannons before, because people like me would go, it wouldn't confuse me, but it could confuse people. You don't see those cannons. So January the 20th, 2021, the only cannons they showed all day long for Joe were 3 at Arlington. The 4 cannons were at Joint Base Andrews with President Donald John Trump. So that's a conflict of interest already out the gate. You've never seen this before, so therefore it's going to confuse people. But it ain't a confusion. 4 cannons, 21 rounds fired is the 21-gun salute itself. The 3 cannons at Arlington,
Arlington National Cemetery, .mil, the official Arlington site. The 3-volley salute is not to be confused with the 21-gun salute. The 3-volley salute seen or heard at Arlington is a funeral service. It's not difficult. People make it difficult. So that was Joe as a representative of the monarchy. The monarchy's dead. That's what that means. So now you go back to the chess move. The best is yet to come. This whole operation was never about President Trump winning. It was never about him being president. This whole operation was to make the swamp drain itself right in front of you. They self-destructed to you. They damned themselves, they hung themselves, they drained themselves. Because President Trump, all they did was enforce the laws. And they funneled them to a place they couldn't go anymore. When you Google, when the king is stalemate, chess will tell you that it results in a draw. But let me tell you why that's important. It's not a win, it's not a loss. But see, in this situation, because the enemy is trapped and the swamp has been trapped and funneled into a trap, they're in a corner. Special operations, spearhead, they're all down here in that funnel. They have to raise the white flag of surrender. They have to say, I give up. You've seen that all along the way. Bezos, Zuckerberg, Tim Cook, 2,500 CEOs stepping down in 2021 alone. You've seen the SEC hammering all these companies, Fannie, all these different things you've heard President Trump talk about. The SEC's hammering them. Goldman Sachs, you name it. BlackRock, they're all going through it. They've all been funneled. When the king is stalemate, it results in a draw. But in this situation, guess who has to raise the white flag and say, I give up, I surrender? Their king. Joe, Mr. Chinaman, Mr. Ukraine. This whole operation is so brilliant. If you would just picture that. But I got all this in part 2. I've got 104 pages of special operations material you can read of how all this was done. It would take me 4 or 5 podcasts to do it. In my voice, I can feel this going a little weak. The other thing that's awesome is that you witnessed on January 20th, 2017 and also January 20th, 2021 are the flags behind the presidents. There's 2 flags that hang down at the Capitol building on January the 20th on Inauguration Day. They're to represent the number of stars of the state of which the president's either resident or is from. All right. There's been one time in history, so George Bush Sr. never lived, well, I say that. He was not from Colorado, but he lived there during a time period of his life, all right, which was funny, but the stars on there, the numbers were Colorado, all right, but he played baseball in Denver, all right, so for whatever reason they used Colorado. But when President Trump took oath, January the 20th, 2017, visually for you, in the visual part of his presidency, not the wartime president, completely different role, duty, obligation, responsibility this last 4 years. He's been a wartime president, all right, in a supreme commander role like 5-star general and former President Dwight D. Eisenhower was, supreme commander, all right. The stars on Joe's flags on January the 20th, 2021 and President Trump, January the 20th, 2017, 13 stars. You know what state that is? Rhode Island. President Trump ain't from Rhode Island. He ain't lived in Rhode Island. Joe, real Joe, ain't from Rhode Island, ain't lived in Rhode Island. So what would the 13 stars represent? The 13 original colonies? Oh yeah, we're resetting our foundation. When liberals say, oh, he's taking us back 50 years. No, heifers, your asses are going back to 1776. That's where your ass is starting over from. You ain't going back 50 years. We're skipping the barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen part. All that white, Anglo-Saxon stuff y'all say we do. We're skipping all that. We're going back to the real Anglo-Saxons. We're going back to the wigs. We're going back to when your ass smelled. We're going back to the no deodorant days. We're going back to those days. That's where we're going. So you already smell that way because y'all don't wear deodorant and y'all look like a bunch of damn heathens anyway. So you'll fit in with that crowd. You'll look like the pirates they had to deal with. All that stench and smell. So we just kick your ass out to sea. Maybe you'll learn to do some rowing and you'll row your boat right back over there to where you belong to the other countries. That's where your ass is going. Just go ahead and tell you right now. You didn't go back 50 years. You back to 1776. 13 stars. All right. It's the only thing you could represent. 13 colonies. But what's cool is that Kelly Brady, Nancy Drew, whatever you want to call her, she's on the ground, boots on the ground as the saying is, in D.C. all the time. Old Miss Nancy got a picture of the setup for this coming Monday. Guess what's up there? The flags. Guess how many stars are on the flags? 27. You know what state that is? Florida. All right. Can't make this up. The dash matters. And if you love and appreciate President Trump, you should learn and seek that dash. All right. Now, to the liberals. Hey, we're the party of love and unity. All right. We're not the party of double standards. We're not the party of hypocrites. We've had a few. Yeah, the Rhino Republicans. But they ain't us. See, that ain't us. So y'all got to understand, the Rhino Republicans ain't us either. We're the party that ain't really a party per se, but because that's how everything operates, we're the Patriot Party, like President Trump called it. We're the Patriot Party. We love this nation. We don't care what you look like. We don't care what you talk like. We don't care who you marry. We don't care about any of that stuff. You're just going to pull your weight the way it should be pulled. All right? And that's how we all get along. When everybody pulls their weight and does what they're supposed to be doing, it's real simple. Real simple. Do unto others. Mind your own business. You won't be minding mine. And clean up your own backyard. I mean, there's 2 songs right there that are great songs. Clean up your own backyard. Mind your own business. You won't be minding mine. Do unto others. Pull your weight where it needs to be pulled. And ain't nobody gonna mess with you. If they do, call someone like me. We'll take care of that. Not in a Yellowstone way. We ain't talking about to the train station, nothing like that. But we'll support you. You just gotta uncondition your brain. Get unbrainwashed. Alright? Come to the party of common sense. That's what we are. We're the party of common sense. And we have book logic. We have book smarts as well. Look at all the women that follow me. I say this every time, not just because, but ladies, men, guys, boys, whatever you are, you better. I'm telling you right now, the ladies have kicked butts and took names this whole operation. Ladies are where it's at because they read. Is when a guy says something. This is what's so funny about human nature. It's really that simple. When a guy says, that's a fact, you know what a woman's going to do? A woman, a female, and it don't matter what kind of woman or female she is, she's going to be like, well, we'll see about that. Just like that. And they going to see. And every male and man on the planet, well, you ought to know a woman when she said, well, we'll find out. They going to find out. Oh, they gonna find out. Females are 10 steps ahead of us all the time, guys. When y'all learn that, you're gonna learn a lot more things about life as well. You're gonna learn you're gonna learn to walk straighter, talk straighter, and act right. When you know that a woman, on a minimum, is 10 steps ahead of your ass all the time, then you'll quit lying, you'll quit trying to fib, you'll quit trying to look around and not make eye contact. No, you'll be like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yep, you got, yep. 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 Yes, ma'am. It's either a yep or a yes, ma'am. See it. Because a woman's going to go read. If there's material to read, if a woman's going to read it, she's going to comb it over with a fine-tooth comb. She's going to read the corner from corner to corner to corner. It's going to be like from paper to paper. If you could name it Alaska and Florida. She's going to read that thing from Alaska to Florida, from Maine to California. She's going to read that thing. She's going to flip it over. She's going to look at it sideways. She's going to look at paper like this. Like, she's going to be like going, oh, yeah, man, a woman going to find it. She's going to find it. And if there's a discrepancy, she's going to find it. That's why I tell people, if I was wrong, I'd have been hung up and dried in the wind 3 years ago. Because females would have gone, well, no, it don't read that, and it don't say that, and it don't do that, and it ain't this, and it ain't. They'd have found it. So, ladies, I don't know what God could do to y'all to give you like the credit, right? I mean, it's like what could do that? Like it, but you deserve it. Y'all, you guys, all pun intended, you guys. But no, you gals have have pulled that weight. You cowboyed up, you cowgirled up, and you've shown the patriot way. I'm gonna tell you what. And if there's anybody out there that deserves the spots, man, I'm gonna tell you what. President Trump needs to be looking down. He needs to be looking down on those levels too, going, hey, boop, doop, doop, doop. There's a lot of females out there that could do it, and I know a couple myself personally that I would highly recommend they be in the spots. Trustworthy, loyal, the right way. Trustworthy, loyal, but then the intellect, the intuition, communication skills, all that. I mean, it's awesome. But hey, you have it all there. Part 2 is out. It's called The Midnight Rider. Part 2. Midnight Rider Rides Again, Part 2. I am going to update it so it's up for pre-order. All right. So it's rattletrap1776.com. I am signing all those. People have asked. I have not stopped signing. I'm going to sign everything. I will sign all those. But what I was doing is wait until the 19th, the rally, and then also the 20th, and then we're going to timestamp the book that way, get it on print. So everybody who's pre-ordered, thank you for that. There's been quite a few pre-orders, but so I'm gonna get it on the print somewhere around the 20th or the 21st. It'll take them a week or two to print it, all right, and get it to me. So you're still in for a 2-week wait, 3-week wait, somewhere in there. But then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna track President Trump's obviously third term, the 47, and I'll track it. And then what we'll do is put out a part 3, but we'll do it in 2028. All right, so I'm just going to keep the podcast going throughout everything. Track what he's signing, what he's putting into law, what he revokes, what he terminates, what becomes a joint resolution, the operations, obviously the deportations. I do have my official state of Oklahoma broadcasting badge, which went through the Department of Defense as well, so I can go anywhere with the military where I can and where it's approved, which most of it's all approved, but still, if it's anything, certain kind of missions, but I can go anywhere with the press, so I'm going to be doing that. And so, it'll be a cool thing to follow along, and it's gonna be a great journey. I mean, like I said, he told you, starting from May this year to July the 4th, 2026, we're gonna have an everyday celebration, and then every single day from July 4th, 2026, every single day for a year. I mean, to get that amount of people on board, it's gonna be a beautiful thing. So I appreciate everybody. I love everybody. It's going to be an awesome ride. We're on countdown. There's still going to be some bumpy days, ain't no doubt, because of the deportations and things like that, getting people to understand what's going on and whatnot. But it's not going to be bumpy in a bad way. It's stuff that all had to happen. The swamp's being drained, and I'll tell you what, there's all kind of records being broken right now. I actually spoke in under 2 hours. I mean, come on, can we get an amen on that? So anyway, so when I post a video on Instagram, obviously the comments on live goes away. So all of you on the live, come back over to the post and comment on there just to say you're a part of it. And then I'll have it up on Rumble. I only have one Rumble account, ladies and gentlemen. So the way to find me is my link tree. There's still a lot of people on Facebook too that are getting confused because there's a lot of frauds and a lot of scams out there. There's a lot of them. All right, so the best way to find all of my authentic pages are my link tree, linktr period EE. That's where the dot goes. linktr dot period. All right, whatever you want to call it, dot or period. EE / 1776 Nation. 1776 Nation. No underscores, no periods, none of that in 1776 Nation. Just 1776 Nation, all together. Linktree, linktr period EE / not / 1776 Nation. There we go. And I'll have this posted on Rumble, and I'll have the link where you can share it with your friends and family. And then the book, part 2, once again, does expand on the chess pieces, the special operations, how they pulled this off, special operations. It's 105 pages of nothing but reading. It's not tough reading, though. It's not big paragraphs, nothing. It's real. You're not going to fall asleep unless it's just your bedtime. But if you're sitting there reading a book, you're not going to fall asleep. It keeps you engaged. It keeps you active. And then I put a lot more photos in there. So it's 582 pages. So don't freak out. It's a lot more pictures than it is reading. All right, but it's just a chronological everything, the blueprint of what pulled this off. But it's also for future's sake, for our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren to know that we went through this. Don't repeat this. Here's evidence that we went through all this, and here's also evidence how to do it if you do get in that situation in the future. When we're all long gone, this will be one of those that they can have to go, this is what my mama lived through, my daddy lived through, my grandma, grandpa, great-grandma, whatever we are, great-uncle, yada, yada, yada. 582 pages. It brings it like that. So we'll see you guys soon, and I'll be coming back on live probably Sunday or Monday or something like that, tracking what's going on Sunday, and then tracking. I'm not going to interfere with President Trump when he's speaking and whatnot, and his rally, etc. But I'll come back on either Sunday or Monday, depending on the window, and we'll document this exciting time in world history. So we'll see you guys very, very soon.